The snowstorm had swallowed Silver Creek long before midnight. It wasn't the gentle kind that coated the town like a postcard. It was the kind that erased highways, shut down truck routes, and pressed itself against the windows of the Harbor Light Diner like a warning. Inside, the lights glowed amber, casting long shadows on the empty booths. A coffee pot hissed somewhere behind the counter. The clock above the register ticked louder than usual, marking time in a place that felt like it had fallen completely still. Lily Nguyen wiped down the last table, her red scarf slipping from her shoulder as she leaned over. The scarf had seen better winters, threads frayed from years of being held too tightly, nights spent studying, mornings spent trying to feel less alone. She tugged it back around her neck and exhaled, fogging the window as she glanced outside. Nothing but white, white sky, white ground, white streets, until she saw movement. Two shapes, small, unsteady, pushing through the wind like they were fighting the world itself. Lily blinked, thinking it might be a trick of the snow, but then one of the shapes stumbled, and the other caught it, dragging it forward. A boy. And a little girl half his size clinging to a stuffed rabbit almost as big as her head. Lily's heart slammed against her ribs. "No, no, no. What are you doing out there?" she whispered to herself. The boy's jacket was thin. The little girl's sleeves were wet. They weren't just cold, they were freezing. Lily didn't think. She dropped the cloth and burst through the diner doors. The cold punched her lungs, turning every breath into ice. Snow clung to her scarf instantly. "Hey!" she shouted over the wind. "Over here! Come this way!" The boy turned. His face was pale, lips trembling violently. The girl clung to his hand, too cold even to cry. "It's okay," Lily said, reaching them, her voice shaking. Not from fear, but from something older, deeper. A memory of being small and alone in storms like this. "You're safe now. Come with me." The boy didn't speak. He just nodded, his arm tightening protectively around the girl as Lily guided them toward the diner. When the door shut behind them, the warmth inside made the girl gasp, like she'd forgotten what heat felt like. Lily rushed behind the counter, grabbing clean aprons and spare staff sweaters from the storage bin. "Sit here," she said gently, pointing to a booth near the heaters. "I'll get you warm." The boy obeyed, pulling his sister close. Lily wrapped the skins both in towels, then sweaters, then layered the aprons over their legs like blankets. She poured hot water into 2 mugs, dropping in honey packets until the steam smelled sweet and comforting. The girl's shaking eventually slowed. The boy's didn't. "What's your name?" Lily asked softly, sliding into the booth across from them. The boy hesitated, studying her with dark, watchful eyes far too old for his age. "I'm Noah," he said finally. "She's Arya." "Hi, Noah." "Hi, Arya," Lily said with a small smile. "I'm Lily. You're safe now, okay? No one's going to leave you outside." Arya blinked up at her. "My fingers hurt." Lily swallowed. "They'll warm up soon. Drink this, sweetheart." Arya wrapped both hands around the mug, eyes fluttering as the warmth seeped in. 20 minutes passed. Snow kept pounding the roof. Lily brought them tomato soup and grilled cheese, the kind she'd perfected during long night shifts when truckers needed something warm to stay awake. Arya devoured her sandwich so quickly, Lily had to remind her to breathe. Noah ate slower, careful, polite. "Thank you," he said after his second bite, voice quiet but clear. "You're welcome," Lily replied. Do you live near here?" Noah stiffened. His hand tightened on the edge of the table. Arya looked at him, then at Lily, then whispered, "We walked a long way." "How long?" Lily asked. Noah didn't answer. "Are your parents looking for you?" Lily tried again, softer. This time Noah looked down, his shoulders trembling. Not from cold. This was something else, something heavier. "We don't have anywhere to go tonight," he murmured. We don't want to go back." Lily stared at him. "Why not?" He shook his head quickly, not refusing to answer, but refusing to relive whatever he'd seen. Lily's breath caught. She knew that look, the fear, the guardedness. She'd seen it in mirrors growing up, in the faces of kids at each foster home she was shuffled into, kids who learned early that adults weren't always safe. Arya laid her head on Noah's shoulder, eyelids drooping. "Noah's tired," she whispered. "I know, baby," he said softly, brushing hair from her forehead. Lily's chest tightened painfully. They needed warmth, safety, a bed. They needed someone who wouldn't put them back out into the cold. She glanced toward the door. The storm was getting worse. The roads were vanishing. Even if she called someone, anyone, it would take hours for help to arrive. Hours these kids didn't have. In her pocket, her phone buzzed with a weather alert. She ignored it. Instead, she looked at the two children huddled together under her oversized aprons and felt something inside her settle with fierce clarity. "You're not going anywhere tonight," she said gently. "You'll stay with me." Noah's head snapped up. We can't take your bed." "You're not taking it," Lily replied. "I'm offering it, and I'll keep the heater on. Can you trust me just for tonight?" Noah studied her, the way lost children study any promise. Like he wanted to believe her, but didn't know if he was allowed to. Finally, he nodded. Arya whispered, "Lily, will there be more soup?" Lily smiled. "There will be pancakes, and warm pajamas, and a safe place to sleep." Outside, the storm raged harder, as if the darkness itself wanted to swallow these two little souls whole. But inside the diner, under the soft glow of cheap lights, something began that none of them understood yet. A small act of kindness, a quiet decision, a moment that would change everything. Lily stood, pulling her red scarf tighter. "Come on," she said softly. "Let's get you home." The diner closed earlier than usual that night. The storm had grown too violent, the kind of cold that seeped into bone and made even the neon signs flicker with exhaustion. Lily locked the door, tightened her red scarf, and looked down at Noah and Arya, two pairs of exhausted eyes staring back at her, trusting her in a way that made her chest ache. The responsible thing, the official thing, would be to call Child Protective Services. That number was printed on a laminated card taped near the register. Lily's hand hovered over her phone more than once, but every time she imagined the scene, two frightened kids sitting in the back of a strange car, being delivered to strangers with clipboards, something inside her rebelled. She remembered being 6, and then 9, and then 12. Backpacks packed and repacked, bedrooms that never quite belonged to her, people who said they cared but disappeared when the funding changed or the paperwork got too heavy. She couldn't make these kids live that again, not tonight. "Come on," she said gently. "My place isn't far. We'll get warm there." Noah hesitated. We won't be any trouble." "You can be as much trouble as you want," Lily answered with a small smile. "Just don't freeze on me." They trudged through the snow toward the aging building, where Lily rented a tiny attic room. By the time she unlocked the creaky door, Arya was half asleep against her shoulder, clutching her rabbit by one floppy ear. Inside, the room was small but warm. A string of fairy lights glowed around the low ceiling. A second-hand heater hummed in the corner. The bed was made with flannel sheets, the same ones Lily bought 2 winters ago when she finally decided she deserved something soft. "Okay," Lily said gently. "First things first. Warm showers." Noah's brows drew together. "We can't use your things." "You can, and you will," she said firmly. "I insist." She found 2 small towels, 2 sets of old pajamas from her college days, too short for her now, but perfect for them. Noah helped Arya wash and dry her hair, being careful with every movement. Lily stood in the hallway, listening to them whisper to each other. It was the kind of tenderness that made her eyes sting. When they emerged, both kids were swallowed in her pajamas, sleeves rolled up, pant legs dragging adorably on the floor. "You look perfect," Lily said. Arya climbed onto the bed immediately. Noah stayed standing, uncertain, like he was waiting for permission to breathe. "You're safe here," Lily told him. "Really?" He let out a shaky breath and climbed onto the bed too. Lily heated water for Coco while the kids curled up under her blanket. Then she pulled out the old storybook she kept for nights when sleep wouldn't come. Stories about wandering foxes and lantern-lit forests. Arya fell asleep halfway through the first story, thumb tucked in her mouth, rabbit pressed against her cheek. Noah stayed awake longer, his dark eyes following every word, but eventually exhaustion pulled him under too. Lily sat on the edge of the bed, watching them breathe. She didn't sleep much that night, not because she was worried, because something inside her felt too full to rest. For the first time in years, her small attic room didn't feel lonely. Morning arrived quietly, sunlight filtered through the frost on the window. The storm had passed, leaving everything silver blue and still. Lily moved slowly, trying not to wake the kids. She tied her hair up, pulled on her favorite sweater, and began making pancakes. The smell of butter, vanilla, and warm syrup filled the air. For a moment, life felt simple. Her phone buzzed on the counter. It was time to call, time to do the right thing. She stared at the number. Her thumb hovered. A knock sliced through the silence. A sharp, urgent knock. 3 quick raps, then another. Lily froze. Her heart thudded. No one visited her. No one even knew this room existed except her landlord and 2 coworkers. She took a cautious step toward the door. Another knock. "Miss, please, please open up." The voice was low, strained, frayed at the edges. Lily unlocked the first latch but kept the chain on. She cracked the door open. A man filled the doorway, tall, broad-shouldered, dark coat dusted in snow. His hair was damp, his breath sharp in the cold hallway, but it was his eyes that stole her breath, dark, red-rimmed, desperate. "Are they here?" he asked hoarsely. "Please tell me they're here." Lily blinked. I don't understand. Who?" "My children," he whispered. "Noah, Arya. Someone said a waitress brought them in from the storm. Please, are they here? Are they safe?" Before Lily could answer, a soft voice behind her said, "Dad?" Noah stood barefoot at the bedroom door, eyes wide, pajamas too big for him. Arya peeked from behind him, clutching her rabbit. The man's breath broke. He pressed a hand to the doorframe like his knees might give out. "Noah," he whispered, voice trembling. "Arya." Noah ran, a choked sound escaping him, half sob, half relief. Arya followed, stumbling into her father's arms. He dropped to his knees, gathering them both up, holding them like someone who had been holding his breath for hours. "Thank God," he murmured into their hair. "Thank God you're safe. I looked everywhere. I thought—" He couldn't finish. Lily stood frozen as the scene unfolded before her. The kind of reunion she used to dream about as a child, but never got. The kind that healed something and hurt something at the same time. Noah lifted his head, tears streaking his cheeks. "We were scared, Dad. We didn't know what to do." "I know," the man whispered. "I'm so sorry." When he finally looked up at Lily, their eyes met. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You saved my children." Lily swallowed. "They saved themselves. I just did what anyone would." "No," he said softly but firmly. "Not anyone." He straightened slowly, one hand still on Noah's shoulder. "My name is Adrian Cole," he said, "and I owe you more than I can ever repay." For a long moment, the only sound was the soft sizzle from the pancake pan and the faint hum of the heater. Lily realized she was still standing there barefoot, hair messy, wearing an oversized sweatshirt, while a grieving father in cashmere stared at her like she'd done something extraordinary. Pancakes were burning on the stove, kids were crying in their father's arms, and Lily felt the ground shift beneath her feet in a way she couldn't explain. But she would, soon, because this moment was the spark that would upend her life. Adrian stayed on his knees long after the children stopped crying, his arms wrapped around both Noah and Arya as if he feared they might disappear again the moment he let go. The tiny attic kitchen was too small for a scene this overwhelming, but somehow it held all of it. The trembling breaths, the whispered apologies, the quiet sobs into a father's jacket. Noah finally pulled back, wiping his face with the sleeve of Lily's oversized pajama top. "We didn't mean to run away," he whispered. "It's just... she locked us in the room, Dad. She yelled a lot. Arya got scared." Arya sniffled and hugged her rabbit tighter. "She said we were too loud." Adrian's jaw tightened, but when he spoke his voice was soft, frayed. "You never run, not without telling me. Not ever again." His hand gently brushed Noah's hair. "But I'm sorry. I chose someone who scared you, and I didn't know. That's my fault." Arya leaned into him again. "We didn't know where to go." "You came here," he murmured, glancing around the tiny room. "To her." The words hit Lily unexpectedly. She stood a few feet away, suddenly aware of how out of place she seemed in this intimate moment. Barefoot, hair slightly tangled, spatula still in her hand, like she was frozen mid-motion. She cleared her throat and forced her voice steady. I made breakfast?" Noah looked up as if just noticing the smell. "Pancakes?" "Only the best ones," Lily said lightly, trying to cut the tension. "They have smiley faces, but don't worry, they taste normal." Arya peeked over her father's shoulder. "Can we have some?" Adrian exhaled shakily and nodded, lifting both kids to their feet. Yes, sweetheart. Let's sit." The table barely fit 4 plates, but they squeezed in, Noah and Arya side by side, Lily across from them, and Adrian standing because there wasn't space for another chair. He rested one hand on the back of Noah's seat, fingers tapping absently as if needing the reassurance of physical contact. The pancakes were imperfect, the edges uneven, blueberries creating lopsided smiley faces. But when Arya laughed softly at hers, something in the air eased. "They look happy," Noah murmured, studying his plate. Lily shrugged. "Food should smile at you at least once a day. It's a rule." Arya giggled again, this time less shaky. Adrian watched quietly, taking in the scene. Two children warming, a stranger making breakfast at dawn, a tiny attic room filled with more safety than the mansion he had built back on the hill. His voice, when it came, was low. "You took them in," he said. "You fed them. You gave them a bed. You didn't even know their names." Lily's cheeks warmed. "Anyone would have done the same." "No," Adrian said, shaking his head. "Not anyone." He finally moved to sit, half perched on the radiator with his long frame awkwardly folded. "You didn't ask? Questions? Or hesitate? Why?" Lily looked down at her coffee. "Because I used to be them." Adrian stilled. "I grew up in foster homes," she continued quietly. "Lots of them. Different places, different rules. I learned early that nights are the worst when you feel like nobody wants you there. So, when I saw them outside," she swallowed. "I couldn't let that be another night like that. Not for them." Noah watched her with an expression that was too mature for 6 years old. "Thank you," he said softly. Lily smiled gently. "You're welcome, kid." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then, carefully, he asked, "You live here alone?" "Yeah, I work nights at the diner. I go to nursing classes during the day." Lily made a face. "Or try to. Student loans are a full-time enemy." "You're studying nursing?" Adrian's voice softened in a way that surprised her. She nodded. "I want to help people, and the diner helps me afford classes." She hesitated. "Well, helps a little. Mostly it's me helping the diner." Arya tugged at her rabbit's ear. "You're nice," she declared suddenly. Lily laughed. "And you're very brave." The room warmed again. Noah ate slowly, savoring every bite. Arya licked syrup from her fingers. Lily sipped her coffee, trying not to stare at the man across from her. The way exhaustion clung to him, the way relief softened his features, the way he couldn't stop glancing at his children, as if reassuring himself they were really there. When the plates were empty and the heater hummed steadily, Adrian finally stood. "I should take them home," he said quietly. "They need rest. And I owe you more than I can say." Lily waved him off. "You don't owe me anything." Adrian reached into the inner pocket of his coat, pulling out a slim silver-edged business card. He set it on the table next to her empty mug. "My work," he said simply, "in case you need anything, or if you ever just want to reach out." Lily glanced at the card. "Adrian Cole, Chief Executive Officer, Cole Horizons." She blinked. "You're a CEO?" Adrian almost smiled. "Guilty." Noah tugged his sleeve. "Dad, can Lily come visit us?" Lily froze. Adrian looked at her, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. "Only if she wants to." Lily opened her mouth, then closed it again. She didn't know what to say, didn't know what the right answer was. She'd known these children for less than a day, and yet something in her chest tugged toward them. Maybe, she said softly. Arya beamed. Adrian exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. He reached for his children's coats, handing them gently to Noah and Arya. "Before we go," he said quietly, eyes meeting Lily's again, "I need you to hear this." She looked up. "I owe you a debt no amount of money could ever repay. You protected my children when I failed to. That's something I won't ever forget." Lily felt her throat grow tight. "You didn't fail," she whispered. "You just didn't know." Adrian studied her for a moment longer, as if trying to memorize her face. Then he nodded once, with a reverence that felt almost too much for the tiny room. "Thank you, Lily," he said. "Truly." And with that, he guided Noah and Arya's toward the door. The hallway light spilled in, icy and pale compared to the warm glow of Lily's attic room. The children looked back at her, Noah with quiet gratitude, Arya with sleepy trust. Then they were gone, and Lily stood alone, staring at the business card on her table, wondering why her heart felt like it was following them down the stairs. The next morning, Silver Creek woke up buzzing with the kind of post-disaster energy only small towns knew. Relief, curiosity, and the irresistible urge to swap survival stories over hot coffee. By the time Lily arrived at the Harbor Light Diner, every booth was full. boots leaving melting puddles near the door, coat steaming by the heaters. "Morning, Lily," customers called out as she passed, each eager to tell her how their power flickered or how their pipes groaned through the night. She smiled, poured refills, and pretended everything was normal, pretended she hadn't spent the previous night comforting two children and meeting their father in a scene straight out of a dream she wasn't supposed to have. She kept her head down. She didn't mention Noah or Arya. She didn't mention the business card still tucked safely into her apron pocket, the silver edges warm from her fingertips, brushing it more than once. She certainly didn't mention the way Adrian Cole's voice had lingered in her head even after he left. "You protected my children. I won't forget." Lily pushed the words away, focusing on wiping down the counter for the third time. "They're saying the roads will clear by noon," her boss Dana said, bustling behind her. "People will be back to complaining about the coffee by 2. Lily forced a laugh. "Nice to know the world is returning to its natural state." She handed a plate of scrambled eggs to a trucker, grabbed her coffee pot, and turned toward booth 5 when the diner's bell chimed. Not the casual jingle of a regular. This was sharper, heavier, intentional. Lily looked up, and her heart stopped. A black SUV sat outside, engine still running. And stepping through the door, dusted with leftover snow, was Adrian Cole, but not the exhausted, frantic father from last night. This Adrian wore a tailored charcoal suit, the kind you only saw in magazines or at fundraising galas the diner's TV sometimes played. His coat was long and dark, his shoes polished, and the entire diner seemed to pause as he entered, like someone had pressed a mute button. Conversations died, forks froze mid-air, even the coffee machine sputtered into silence. Lily stood behind the counter, coffee pot in hand, so still she felt like she'd turned into part of the decor. Adrian's eyes found hers instantly. Everything inside her jolted. He didn't smile. But something warmer than gratitude flickered in his expression, something that made her pulse skip in a way that felt dangerous. He walked straight toward her, ignoring the curious looks following him. The floor creaked under his steps, each one sounding like a countdown Lily hadn't agreed to. Dana elbowed Lily lightly. You know him?" "Not really," Lily muttered, though her racing heartbeat disagreed. Adrian reached the counter, glanced briefly at the coffee pot still frozen in her grip, then lifted his gaze to hers. "Lily Nguyen," he said, his voice carrying across the diner. Every head turned. Lily swallowed. "Mr. Cole, what are you doing here?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked around, at the booths, at the crowd leaning forward to listen, at the windows still frosted from last night's storm. Then he spoke, loud enough for the entire room to hear. "Yesterday," he said, "this woman rescued my children." A ripple moved through the diner. Adrian continued. "She took Noah and Arya out of the storm. She fed them, gave them warm clothes, stayed awake to make sure they were safe. She did all the things I should have done. She stepped in when I failed to." Lily felt her cheeks burn. "You don't need to." "I do," Adrian said, cutting her off gently. His gaze softened. "I owe you more than a thank you." Someone in the back muttered, "What's happening?" Someone else whispered, "Is he about to?" Adrian's hand hovered on the counter, not quite reaching for Lily's, but close enough that she felt the heat. "I want you in my life," he said quietly, but somehow still loud enough for everyone to hear. Lily blinked. "What?" He straightened, clearing his throat as murmurs filled the diner again. "What I mean is, I want to make a formal invitation." "Oh my God," a woman at booth 3 gasped. "He's proposing," Lily choked. "He's not." Adrian raised a hand, signaling for silence. The diner obeyed. "I'm not proposing," he said calmly. Then after a beat added, "Not today." The diner gasped again. Lily's heart nearly exploded. "Mr. Cole, Adrian, please, you don't have to." "I do," he insisted. His voice lowered, meant only for her, even though half the town leaned in. "Lily, I want you to come to dinner, tonight, at my homikom, with my family. I want you to meet them the way they deserve to meet the woman who kept Noah and Arya alive last night." She stared at him, every part of her spinning. "Dinner?" "Dinner," he confirmed. "Just dinner, but..." His gaze dipped to her apron, then returned to her eyes. "I'm hoping you'll think about something more, something longer, something that isn't just gratitude." The diner erupted in whispers. Dana dropped a stack of menus. A teenage boy filmed on his phone until his mother swatted his arm. Lily set down the coffee pot, suddenly aware her hand was shaking. Adrian, this is a lot. You're not just anything, he said gently. You are the woman my children felt safe with. That means something. To me. To them. Her throat tightened. You hardly know me. Then let me fix that, he said. Let me know you. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She'd lived her whole life unnoticed, unseen, blending into corners and night shifts. And now a man who looked like he belonged in skyscrapers was standing in her diner asking her to step into a world she'd never imagined. This is crazy, she whispered. Adrian smiled faintly. The best things usually are. He slid a small envelope across the counter, white, heavy, embossed with the Cole family crest. 7 o'clock, he said. We'll be waiting. He turned, walking back toward the door. Noah and Arya weren't with him, but Lily could almost hear their laughter echoing behind his steps. Before he left, he paused, glanced over his shoulder, and met her eyes one last time. Thank you for saving them, he said softly, and thank you for letting me try to know you. Then he was gone. The bell chimed behind him, the diner exploded in noise, and Lily stood frozen, wondering how one quiet morning had become the beginning of something so large it terrified her. Something that felt like the start of a story she had never believed she would belong to. By noon, the diner had turned into a rumor factory. Lily could feel whispers trail behind her as she refilled coffee cups and delivered plates of waffles. Every booth had a theory, some dramatic, some absurd, all wrong. The only right part was the feeling twisting in her stomach each time someone said the name Adrian Cole with a too knowing smirk. What happened between you two? A regular asked with a conspiratorial wink. Nothing, Lily insisted. A woman at the counter leaned in. Honey, men like him don't show up at diners unless they're in love or in trouble. Lily nearly dropped her coffee pot. It wasn't like that. He just wanted to thank me. Uh-huh, the woman replied, obviously unconvinced. By mid-afternoon, everyone in Silver Creek seemed convinced that Lily was either secretly engaged to a billionaire or running off to live in a mansion by evening. Dana nudged her every few minutes, telling her to just breathe, which didn't help at all. Lily kept her head down, worked her shift, and replayed Adrian's words more times than she wanted to admit. Let me know you. She wasn't used to being noticed, not by anyone, and definitely not by someone who walked into a room like he owned gravity. When her shift finally ended, dusk had already settled over Silver Creek. The snow glowed orange under the street lamps as she climbed the narrow steps to her attic room, exhausted and ready to collapse for a moment, before deciding whether she dared show up at his dinner tonight. But when she reached the landing, she froze. A woman stood there, elegant, composed, wrapped in a soft gray wool coat and a silk scarf. Her posture straight, her expression unreadable, her hair, silver and swept back, caught the dim light like polished frost. For a second, Lily thought she had the wrong floor. Then the woman turned, and her eyes, sharp, assessing, but gentle underneath, landed on her. Miss Nguyen? The woman asked. Her voice was warm but carried a controlled authority. Lily gripped the railing. Yes, I'm Lily. Can I help you? The woman offered a faint smile. I should introduce myself properly. I'm Eleanor Cole. Lily's heart lurched. Adrian's mother? Yes, Eleanor nodded gracefully. I hope I'm not intruding. I wanted to speak with you, without the chaos of the diner. Lily opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She'd expected many things today, judgment, warnings, maybe even a polite request for distance. But she hadn't expected this. A wealthy, impeccably dressed woman waiting outside her tiny attic room, as if it were the most natural place to be. Of course, Lily finally managed. Would you like to come in? I would, thank you. Lily pushed open the door, suddenly hyper-aware of every imperfection of her space. The uneven floorboards, the mismatched curtains, the chipped bed-seized lamp. But Eleanor stepped inside without hesitation, as though she had entered a place of equal value to her own home. Please sit, Lily said, gesturing to the room's only chair. Eleanor lowered herself onto it with surprising ease. This is lovely, she observed, glancing around. Cozy, peaceful. Lily nearly laughed. It's small. Small is not a flaw, Eleanor replied. Coldness is a flaw. Emptiness is a flaw. This room has neither. Lily wasn't used to compliments she didn't earn through service. She busied herself making tea, grateful for something to do with her hands. I suppose, Lily began cautiously, you came to talk about yesterday? In part, Eleanor folded her gloves in her lap with deliberate gentleness. Mostly, I came to thank you, properly. Lily blinked. Thank me? For keeping my grandchildren safe, Eleanor said softly, for comforting them, for being the warmth they needed last night. Her voice wavered just a little, and Lily's breath caught. She had imagined Adrian's mother to be formidable, maybe cold, but not human in this way, not vulnerable. Noah told me, Eleanor continued, that you made him feel like the world wasn't falling apart. He said Arya stopped crying the moment you told her she wasn't alone, Lily swallowed. They're wonderful kids. Yes, Eleanor said quietly, but they've had a harder year than most children their age should ever endure. Losing their mother left cracks everywhere you can't see. Last night, they healed a little, because of you. Lily felt her chest tighten, unsure whether to thank her or deny it. Praise had always felt foreign, like a borrowed coat that didn't fit. Eleanor reached for the teacup Lily handed her. Adrian told me how he found them. He said you opened the door looking like an angel who had wandered into the wrong life. Lily almost sputtered. I was wearing pajamas. Adrian doesn't care, Eleanor smiled faintly. He cares that his children trusted you instantly, that you treated them with gentleness, that you did not call the authorities, not out of negligence, but out of compassion. Lily sat on the edge of her bed, hands clasped tightly. I didn't want them to feel what I felt, she whispered. I know what it's like to be moved around, to feel replaceable. Eleanor's eyes softened. Then perhaps that is why you were exactly where they needed you. A silence settled between them, comfortable, almost warm. Lily found herself breathing easier than she expected, but the question she had feared eventually pushed its way out. Are you here to tell me not to come tonight? Eleanor blinked, then actually let out a soft laugh. My dear, if Adrian ever tried to bring a woman into his life without my approval, I would be the first to object. Lily stiffened. But, Eleanor continued gently, I did not come to warn you away. I came to prevent Adrian from showing up at your diner again, making grand declarations in front of strangers. Lily's cheeks burned. That was unexpected. He has always been dramatic when it comes to people he cares about, Eleanor said fondly. His father was the same. Then she reached into her coat pocket. Lily braced herself, half expecting a check or a crisp envelope of cash. But what Eleanor placed on the table was something else entirely. An invitation, cream-colored, embossed, elegant. For tonight, Eleanor said, a simple dinner, no expectations, no conditions, just gratitude, and a chance to ease some of Adrian's enthusiasm. Lily breathed out slowly, relief washed through her, surprising in its intensity. So, you're not trying to pay me off? Eleanor smiled warmly. If I wanted to insult you, Lily, I would not do it in your own home. Lily laughed despite herself. Eleanor sipped her tea, then set the cup down. Carefully. Come tonight, see the children again, meet us properly. Lily stared at the invitation, the gold lettering catching the lamp's glow. I don't know what Adrian expects, she admitted softly. Expectations, Eleanor said, rising to her feet, are something you may discuss with him. But mine are simple. I expect you to be exactly who you were last night. Kind, steady, and honest. She touched Lily's arm lightly. That is more than enough. Lily watched her descend the staircase, coat brushing softly against the railings, leaving behind the faint scent of lavender, and something warm Lily couldn't quite name. When the door downstairs closed, Lily looked at the invitation again. Dinner at the Cole residence, at 7. No conditions, no pressure, just gratitude. And maybe, just maybe, the beginning of something else. Lily had never driven up the wealthy part of Silver Creek before. Her old sedan rattled in protest as it climbed the hill, tires crunching over the thin layer of fresh snow. The streetlights grew farther apart, replaced by soft ground lights that illuminated sculpted evergreens and winding stone pathways. Up here, everything looked chicorated, quiet, intentional, a world built from warmth and old money. But when she turned the last corner and the Cole residence appeared, she stopped breathing for a moment. The house wasn't the cold fortress she had pictured. It was glass and cedar and warm golden light, modest for a CEO, but somehow grander because of how human it felt. The windows glowed like lanterns, revealing the silhouettes of people moving inside, life, family, Laughter. Lily parked in the circular drive, her hands gripping the steering wheel until she forced herself to breathe again. She reminded herself it was just dinner, just gratitude, nothing more. Before she even reached the steps, the front door burst open. "Lily!" Arya launched herself down the walkway in mismatched socks, her rabbit dragging behind her. Lily barely had time to brace before the little girl collided with her legs. "You came!" Arya beamed. "Dad said you would, but Noah said maybe you were busy, or your car broke, or you forgot what day it was." "I didn't forget," Lily said, laughing softly. "Hi, sweetheart." Noah appeared next, calmer, but his eyes bright. "We made something for you." He held up a sheet of paper filled with tiny origami cranes, each carefully glued into the shape of a heart. Lily's throat tightened. "This is beautiful," he shrugged shyly. "We wanted you to feel welcome." Arya grabbed Lily's hand. "Come inside. Dad's burning the bread again." "I told you it was intentional," Adrian's voice called from the doorway. Lily looked up. He stood there dressed simply. Dark sweater, sleeves pushed to his elbows, the faintest smile softening the exhaustion, still lingering at the edges of his expression. Something in his face changed when he saw her. Something unguarded, warm. "Lily," he said, and her name sounded different in his voice. "We're glad you're here." Inside, the house felt lived in, not staged. Drawings were taped along the hallway, paper cranes hung from the light fixtures, and a blanket fort had been left half-assembled beside the living room sofa. A grand piano sat in the corner, dark, polished, untouched recently, but clearly treasured. A framed photo hung above it. Adrian, a beautiful woman with soft eyes, Noah as a baby in her arms, Hannah. Lily paused, unsure whether to look too long. But before she could overthink, Eleanor appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a linen towel. "Lily, dear, you made it." Eleanor kissed her cheek lightly, the gesture surprisingly natural. "Come in. We're just putting the finishing touches on dinner." "It smells amazing," Lily said honestly. "It smells like your son nearly set something on fire," Eleanor corrected dryly, and Adrian groaned. "It was one loaf," he muttered. "One." Noah giggled and tugged Lily toward the dining room. The table was long but set intimately, with candles glowing in the center and mismatched napkin rings. Arya apparently insisted on choosing them. "Sit by me," Arya demanded, climbing into her seat. "And me," Noah added, sliding another chair over. Lily ended up between them, their small shoulders pressed warmly against her as the dishes were passed around. Roasted chicken, winter vegetables, and yes, slightly charred bread. "This is wonderful," Lily said, taking a bite. "Truly." Adrian exhaled in relief. "Good. I was worried you'd lie to me out of politeness." "She would never," Arya declared proudly. "Lily tells the truth." Lily smiled despite herself. Eleanor poured sparkling water for everyone. "So, Lily, Adrian tells me you are studying nursing." Lily hesitated. "Slowly, classes during the day, diner shifts at night. I'm trying to finish the program, but it's taking time." "That's admirable," Eleanor said. "It's a demanding profession." "I like helping people," Lily said gently. "Maybe because I needed help a lot growing up." Adrian's fork paused midair. "You helped my children," he said. "That already makes you better at the job than half the professionals I've met." Lily tried to hide her flustered smile behind her glass. As the evening flowed, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, belonging. Noah leaned his head lightly on her arm as he ate. Arya tried to feed her tiny carrot pieces. Eleanor asked thoughtful questions, rather than intrusive ones. And Adrian just watched sometimes, quietly, with a kind of awe he didn't bother to hide. It should have been perfect, but perfection never lasts long. Halfway through dinner, the front door opened. The temperature in the room dropped before a word was spoken. A tall woman stepped into the dining room, with snow still dusting her shoulders. Her hair was dark and sleek, her coat expensive, her expression sharper than the mountain air outside. Vanessa Reed, Hannah's younger sister. The moment she saw Lily seated at the table, between Noah and Arya, her brows lifted in icy disbelief. "Well," Vanessa said, voice smooth as glass, "I see I arrived just in time for whatever this is." Adrian straightened. "Vanessa, I thought you were in Seattle tonight." I drove back when I heard your children were missing," she said pointedly. "Imagine my surprise to find them perfectly safe, and being chaperoned by a waitress." The word wasn't said cruelly, but it wasn't kind either. It landed with a cold precision meant to define and diminish. Lily's spine stiffened. Arya clutched her rabbit. Noah slipped his hand into Lily's under the table. "Vanessa," Adrian warned softly. "What?" Vanessa shrugged, taking a seat with an elegance sharpened by disapproval. "I'm simply asking the obvious question. Since when does a woman who serves coffee get a seat at this table?" "Since she saved my children," Adrian said, tone unmistakably protective. Vanessa's gaze flicked to Lily, scanning her from her simple dress to her thrift store shoes. "I'm sure she did what she thought was best," she said lightly. "But you're quick to let strangers into your home these days." Eleanor set her fork down, voice calm but firm. "Vanessa, enough." "I'm just being realistic," Vanessa replied. "Adrian is vulnerable, the kids are still grieving, and suddenly there's a new face at dinner? Forgive me for asking questions." Lily felt heat rise in her cheeks, not shame, but something older and sharper. She'd spent her life being judged by people who never knew her story, but being judged in front of Noah and Arya, that hurt in a deeper place. She drew a breath, steady but quiet. "I understand your concern," she said, surprising even herself with how steady her voice sounded. "But I'm not here to replace anyone. I'm not here for anything other than what happened last night." Vanessa arched a brow. "We'll see." Adrian's jaw tightened, and something fierce flashed in his eyes. "Vanessa, you don't get to interrogate her." "I get to protect my family," Vanessa countered. "Someone has to." The table fell silent. Even the candles seemed to flicker uneasily. But then Noah squeezed Lily's hand under the table. Small, brave, loyal. "Lily is family," he whispered, and the whole room changed. Dinner ended more quietly than it began. Vanessa's cool remarks lingered in the air like a draft, but the children's laughter, Eleanor's calm presence, and Adrian's protective glances softened the edges. Lily helped gather plates before Eleanor gently insisted she go get some fresh air. "She's not always like that," Eleanor whispered, touching Lily's arm. "And even when she is, she doesn't get the final word." Lily smiled politely, even if her heart was still tangled in uncertainty. When she stepped outside, the cold wrapped around her like a warning and a comfort at the same time. Fresh snow glittered under the porch lights. She hugged her coat close and watched the breath slip from her lips in little white wisps. The door clicked behind her. Adrian walked out, hands in his pockets, scarf tucked neatly into his coat. He stopped a few feet away, studying her carefully. "Are you all right?" he asked. Lily nodded too quickly. "Of course. You don't have to pretend with me." She looked away. "I don't want to make things complicated for you, for the kids." "You didn't make anything complicated," he said softly. "You just walked into a storm that was already there." Their eyes met, and then, in that unsteady, quiet moment, he asked, "Do you want to take a drive?" Lily hesitated. "Now?" He nodded toward the distant hills. "It's something I want you to see." Her breath caught, but she followed him to the car. Noah and Arya pressed their faces to the window as the car pulled away, waving like she was going on a grand adventure instead of a small nighttime drive. When they reached the top of Skyline Lookout, the world opened around them. The hill overlooked the entire town, Silver Creek glowing under the snow, houses twinkling like scattered lanterns on a map. Wind brushed the trees, and flakes drifted lazily down, soft as feathers. "This is beautiful," Lily whispered. "It was Hannah's favorite place," Adrian said quietly. "She used to come up here when things felt too noisy. Said she liked seeing the whole town small enough to fit in her hand." Lily walked closer to the edge, watching lights flicker below. "It feels like the kind of view that tells you the world might still be okay." Adrian's voice shifted, lower, far more vulnerable. "I wanted you to see it because I don't want you to feel blindfolded in this." "In what?" "In whatever this is between us." Her heart thudded in her chest. Snow crunched as he stepped closer. "I know tonight was complicated. Vanessa shouldn't have spoken to you like that." "It's fine," Lily said quietly. "I'm used to being the outsider. I don't want you to ever feel that way in my home." There was so much sincerity in his voice that Lily looked away before her eyes gave her away. A small wooden cabin sat at the edge of the lookout, half buried in snow. Adrian gestured for her to follow. They ducked inside, brushing past the old wooden door. The interior was simple. One long bench, a dusty lantern, walls stained with age. But the window framed the town perfectly, a portrait of Silver Creek drowned in winter light. Adrian leaned against the wall, folding his arms. Can I tell you something I haven't said out loud in a long time? Only if you want to. He exhaled slowly. I still dream about the night Hannah died, the phone call, the silence in the house afterward, the weight of being the only parent left. Sometimes I feel like I'm still apologizing to my children for something I can't undo. Lily's breath softened. Being a parent doesn't mean you get to stop being human. I know, he said, but Vanessa looks at me like I should still be grieving in the exact way she expects, like moving forward means betraying Hannah. And what do you feel? Lily asked. He looked at her then, really looked at her. I feel terrified, Adrian whispered. Terrified that I'm asking my children to accept someone new. Terrified I'm asking you to step into a life that's already been broken open once. Lily sat beside him on the bench. You're not asking me to replace anyone. No, Adrian said. I would never ask that. He brushed a bit of snow from his sleeve. But I am asking for something. Her heart tightened. What? His voice dropped so low it felt like a confession. A chance. A real one. To build something that isn't patched together with guilt or grief. Lily's chest trembled. You barely know me, she whispered. I know enough, Adrian said. I know that Noah feels safe with you. I know Arya looks at you the way she used to look at Hannah, like you're a warm place in the world. And I know how I feel when you walk into a room. Lily swallowed hard. Adrian, I'm not used to people choosing me. I'm choosing you, he said gently, not because you're convenient, not because you saved my children, but because you bring something into our lives I didn't know we were missing. She had no words, so he kept talking, trying to bridge the gap her silence left. I'm not asking for an answer tonight, he said, but I want you to know the truth. I want you in our lives, not as a thank you, not as a guest, as family. Her breath stopped. Lily. Adrian's voice trembled just enough to betray the courage it took to say the next words. Would you consider becoming my wife? The world froze, not with snow, but with the weight of a moment life-altering in its simplicity. Lily pressed her palms together, searching for air. Adrian, I don't know if I can make a decision like that. Not yet. Not when everything feels so sudden. He nodded immediately. I understand. I'm not saying no, she murmured. I'm saying, give me a little time. A week. Let's see if this is real, if it's not just adrenaline after what happened. Adrian's shoulders loosened with quiet relief. A week, he repeated. I can do a week. I can do a lifetime, if that's what it takes. She smiled softly. Let's start with 7 days. He held her gaze, steadily, reverently, as snow drifted outside the window like falling stars. 7 days, he said again, and I'll prove that this isn't panic, it's hope. The next 7 days unfolded with a strange, gentle inevitability, as if the world itself were nudging Lily toward a life she had never dared to imagine. Adrian kept his promise. Every evening, without fail, he appeared outside the diner in his dark SUV, leaning against the hood with a quiet smile that made her heartbeat stumble every time. Some nights, he took her to Coal Horizons. The building felt like a glass and steel heartbeat pulsing above the snowy streets of Silver Creek. Adrian showed her the research labs, the innovation wing, and finally, his office, a corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows that frame the entire valley. Lily pressed her hand against the glass. It feels like standing above the clouds. It feels lonely most days, Adrian murmured, but not when you're here. She didn't answer, but the warmth in her chest did. Other nights were far simpler. One evening, Adrian picked her up with 2 sleepy children in tow and drove to the frozen lake outside town. Noah taught Lily how to skip stones across the ice, counting how many times they hopped before sliding into silence. You'll get better, he told her solemnly. Just don't throw like you're scared of hurting the ice. I am scared of hurting the ice, Lily laughed. Arya clung to her leg, bundled in a pink coat, whispering, Can we go home and make cocoa? But only if Lily stirs it. Only if you promise not to spill cocoa powder everywhere this time, Adrian teased. Arya's gasp was theatrical. That was one time. They roasted marshmallows in the backyard that night, the string lights glowing overhead like warm constellations. Noah collected snow in his palms and shaped tiny cranes out of cold air, pretending each was a wish he didn't quite say aloud. Every moment felt too precious, too fragile, too unreal. And then, on the fifth evening of their 7-day test, everything cracked. Vanessa showed up. She arrived at the house with her sharp coat, sharp heels, and sharper gaze. She pulled Lily aside while Adrian and the kids decorated sugar cookies in the kitchen. "We need to talk," Vanessa said. Lily nodded, bracing herself. Vanessa crossed her arms. "I don't know what you think you're doing." "I'm not doing anything," Lily replied evenly. "You think I don't see it?" Vanessa's voice was quiet, but the edge was unmistakable. "You walk in here with your soft eyes and your tragic backstory and... what? You expect to slide into Hannah's place?" Lily steadied her breath. "I'm not trying to replace Hannah." "You can't replace her," Vanessa snapped. "She was extraordinary. Adrian adored her. The kids adored her. And now you show up in their house?" Her voice lowered. "When they're vulnerable?" Lily met her gaze calmly. "I know what it looks like, but I'm not here to fill a void. I'm here because they invited me into their lives." "You're here because Adrian is desperate," Vanessa countered. "And desperation makes men blind." Lily didn't flinch. "I will never be Hannah. I'm not trying to be, but I love those children, in my own way, and they love me, in theirs." Vanessa's jaw tightened, but something uncertain flickered in her eyes. "You're not the villain in this, Vanessa," Lily said softly. "You're just scared of losing the memories of someone you loved. I understand that, but don't punish me for being in their lives." Vanessa said nothing, only looked away, battling words she couldn't shape. Later, she left abruptly, coat swirling behind her like a closing curtain. The tension lingered, but Adrian crossed the room, brushing Lily's hand lightly. "Thank you for being patient," he whispered. "She's hurting in her own way." "I know." 2 nights later, the 7th night, the final night, Lily arrived at the house expecting another quiet evening. Instead, she stepped into the backyard and stopped breathing. String lights hung across the snow-covered fence. Lanterns glowed in the branches. Fresh footprints formed a small circle in the snow, and in the middle stood Adrian, his breath fogging in the cold, his dark hair touched by frost. Noah held Arya's hand, both bundled in puffy jackets, both grinning like they'd discovered the world's sweetest secret. "Lily!" Arya squealed. "Come here! Hurry!" Lily stepped forward, pulse thundering. Adrian turned, and every emotion he had kept quiet all week flickered in his eyes. Fear, hope, tenderness, and something deeper than any of them. "You gave me a week," he said softly. "Tonight is the 7th day." He pulled something from his pocket, a snow globe, clear glass, white base, tiny cabin inside, gentle glitter swirling like soft winter stardust. He held it out to her. "Open it." Her hands trembled as she unscrewed the bottom. A ring lay inside, a simple band, not extravagant, not loud, beautiful in its sincerity. She looked up, breath caught. Adrian knelt in the snow. Noah and Arya stepped beside him, wide eyes, small hands clasped in anticipation. "Lily and Nguyen," Adrian said, voice steady even though she saw his fingers shake. "I don't want 7 days. I want a lifetime, with you, with the kids, with whatever future we can build together." Arya whispered loudly, "Say yes!" Noah elbowed her, but he was smiling too. "Dad, you're supposed to let her talk." Lily felt heat bloom behind her eyes, tears warming the cold before they fell. She shook her head slightly, not in rejection, but in disbelief. "Adrian, I don't deserve this." "Yes," he said, "you do. I'm just a girl from nowhere." "You're the woman who saved my children," he whispered. "Who taught them to breathe again. Who taught me to hope again." Her voice cracked. "I'm scared." "So am I," he admitted. "Let's be scared together." Noah stepped forward and held her hand. Small, warm, certain. Arya pressed her face into Lily's coat. "We want you." Lily broke. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Adrian, I'll marry you." The children cheered. Adrian rose, slipping the ring onto her finger before pulling her into his arms. Snow fell in a slow, shimmering veil around them, as if the world itself were blessing the moment. The wedding came 2 days later, small, imperfect, perfect. Guests were few, close friends, Eleanor, a reluctant but present, Vanessa. The living room transformed into a soft-lit chapel, with flowers Noah had chosen and a blanket aisle Arya insisted on helping arrange. Adrian stood waiting at the front, tie slightly crooked, heart completely bare. Noah took Lily's hand with solemn pride. Arya took the other, bouncing with joy. Together, they walked her down the makeshift aisle toward the man whose life had collided with hers in a snowstorm she once thought she'd face alone. When Adrian kissed her, gentle, grateful, entirely in love, the room erupted in cheers, and Lily knew she had finally been chosen. And this time, no one was sending her away. The wedding glow lasted exactly 3 days. 3 days of laughter in the coal house, of Arya twirling in Lily's borrowed veil, of Noah proudly practicing the word stepmom to see how it sounded in different tones. Adrian had never looked more at peace. Lily had never felt more anchored. Then Adrian's phone rang and kept ringing. At first, he joked about it. They can't survive without me for a week, apparently. But every call seemed to drain a little more color from his face. During their small post-wedding dinner, just family, a handful of close friends, Lily watched him slip silently onto the balcony 3 separate times, each conversation sharper than the last. His shoulders stayed tense, his eyes unfocused, as if tracking fires she couldn't see. When he returned inside, she touched his arm. "Everything okay?" He managed a reassuring smile. "Just noise at the company. Nothing that can't be handled, I promise." But the way he avoided her gaze told a different story. That night, after everyone left, Lily found him sitting in the living room, alone. The lights were dim, and Noah's paper cranes cast soft shadows across the walls. Adrian sat with his elbows on his knees, phone in hand, jaw tight. "Talk to me," she whispered. "It's fine," he said. Too fast, too flat. "I just need to straighten out a misunderstanding." But misunderstandings didn't spread across national news outlets overnight. Misunderstandings didn't wipe billions from a company's valuation. Misunderstandings didn't make the man she'd married look 10 years older in 48 hours. Still, Lily didn't push, not yet. 2 days later, he kissed her and boarded a flight to Seattle. "It'll only be a day," he'd told her. It wasn't. 1 day turned into 3. 3 turned into a week. He called every night, voice increasingly frayed. "The investors want guarantees. The press is twisting everything. I'm trying to fix it. Just give me time." Lily listened to every word, folding laundry on the bed while Arya slept curled against her. Noah working quietly on homework beside her. She kept her voice steady even when his wasn't. "I believe in you," she whispered, "but don't forget to breathe." He laughed softly. "Breathing isn't on the schedule right now." Then came the worst night. Lily found him on video call at nearly 2 a.m. His tie was loosened, his hair disheveled, and there were dark circles beneath his eyes she had never seen before. "Adrian," she said sharply, "when was the last time you slept?" "I'll sleep when this is over." That's not an answer. He rubbed his temples. "I know, there's no margin for error right now. If this deal collapses completely, I'll lose everything." "No," Lily whispered. "You won't lose everything, not what matters." His expression flickered, something warm, then something terrified. "Lily," he murmured, "I can't fail the people who believed in me, or the people depending on this technology, or my family." "You're allowed to lean on your family," she said, "on me." But he only smiled a tired smile, the kind of smile that tried too hard to be brave. "I love you," he said. "I just need to get through this." Then the screen went black. Days passed. Rain hit the windows in Silver Creek. Snow melted on the hill. Life kept moving even as Lily felt a growing knot in her stomach. By the end of the 3rd week, his calls grew shorter, his voice hoarser. Once she heard someone in the background ask if he needed water, and he snapped, not in anger, but exhaustion. "I'm fine," he'd said. Just give me a minute." Lily didn't sleep that night. The next day, she was making breakfast for Noah and Arya when her phone rang. Unknown number, Seattle area code. "Hello? Mrs. Cole?" The voice was trembling. "This is Jacob. I'm Adrian's assistant." Lily's blood ran cold. "What happened?" "He collapsed," Jacob whispered. "In the boardroom. He's at St. Clair Hospital downtown. They're running tests. Stress, dehydration, exhaustion. He's stable, but you need to come." The world tilted. Lily grabbed her coat, hands shaking so badly that her keys slipped onto the floor. Eleanor appeared in the doorway at the exact moment Lily tried to speak. "He's hurt," Lily choked. "I have to go." "I'll watch the children," Eleanor said immediately. "Go? Now." "I've never been to Seattle," Lily whispered, heart pounding. "Then get in the car and start driving," Eleanor said. steady as stone. "You'll find him. He needs you." Lily hugged the children. Noah held on a second longer, sensing something adults didn't say aloud. And then she climbed into her car before she could fall apart. The drive blurred into a frantic ribbon of highway, rain smearing the windshield as the city skyline rose like an iron forest ahead. Lily followed GPS directions with trembling fingers, praying at every red light. St. Clair Hospital glowed harsh and white under the stormy sky. She ran through the automatic doors, chest tight, breath thin. "I'm here for Adrian Cole," she told the nurse at the desk. "Please, where is he?" The nurse guided her down a long corridor. The lights were too bright, the walls too sterile, the air too heavy. When she reached room 407, she stopped. Through the glass, she saw him. Adrian lay on the hospital bed, eyes closed, a thin line of sweat clinging to his brow. An IV slipped into his arm. His pale fingers rested limply on the blanket. Machines hummed a low, steady rhythm that made her throat tighten. He looked nothing like the man she married, nothing like the man who stood in the snow and asked her to be his family. He looked breakable. Lily pushed open the door, every movement careful, reverent. She stepped to the side of the bed, her coat dripping melted rain onto the floor. Slowly she took his hand. It was cold. "Adrian," she whispered, brushing her thumb against his knuckles. "I'm here." His eyelids he fluttered, and he blinked up at her, disoriented, exhausted, relieved all at once. "Lily?" "I'm right here," she whispered. "You should have told me it was this bad." "I didn't want to worry you," he rasped. "You're my husband," she said softly. "Worrying is part of the job." He managed a weak smile. "I thought I could carry it. I thought I had to." "You don't," Lily said. "Not anymore. We'll carry this together." His breathing steadied as she held his hand. The rain pattered softly against the window, a cold backdrop to the warm promise forming between them. For the first time in weeks, Adrian seemed to let go, not of the crisis, not of responsibility, but of the belief that he had to brave every storm alone. And Lily, sitting beside him in a city she'd never visited until now, understood. Love wasn't built on fairy tale dinners or quiet winter weddings. It was built here, in the fluorescent glow of a hospital room, in the quiet collapse of a man who finally let himself be held, in the resolve of a woman who refused to walk away from the hardest parts. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and rain. Adrian rested against his pillows, still pale, still exhausted, but awake. Lily sat beside him, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She had held herself together all night, but now that he was conscious, the walls she'd built to survive, the fear began to crack. "You can't do that again," she said softly. "You can't shut me out like that." Adrian looked down at their intertwined hands. "I didn't want to make you carry any of it. I'm not made of glass," she said, "and you're not meant to be a pillar holding up the whole sky alone. That's not marriage, that's punishment." He closed his eyes, voice tight. "I've lived so long thinking I had to be everything. For the kids, for my parents, for the company, for a legacy that isn't even mine to fix. And where does that leave you?" Lily whispered. "Collapsed in a hospital bed?" He didn't answer. Lily touched his cheek, guiding his gaze back to hers. "I'm here, not to watch you carry the weight alone. I'm here to share it. That's the deal. That's what I chose." "And what if sharing it means losing everything you just gained?" Adrian said. "What if, after the fallout, all I can offer you is the shadow of what you married into?" "I didn't marry a lifestyle," she replied. "I married a man who looks at his kids like they hung the stars. I married someone who makes paper cranes with his son when he can't sleep. Someone who reads bedtime stories twice because Arya didn't hear the beginning." He almost smiled. "So, listen carefully," Lily continued. "If we have to sell the house on the hill, we sell it. If you have to start from scratch, we do it together. I've lived my whole life on mismatched furniture and cheap meals. A smaller home doesn't scare me." Adrian stared at her as if she were something fragile and impossible. "You'd really leave everything behind? Just like that," she said. "Because none of it matters if you're not okay." A long silence fell between them, one that wasn't heavy but healing. Then Adrian whispered, "We might have to do exactly that. Sell the house, cut staff, downsize everything." Lily squeezed his hand. "Good. Then we'll build something new, something that's ours." And for the first time in weeks, Adrian nodded without resistance. 3 weeks later, they moved. The new house wasn't on a hill with glass walls or a panoramic view. It was a small, weathered, cedar-framed home on the outskirts of Silver Creek. 1 story, 3 bedrooms, creaky floorboards, a kitchen just big enough for a small table. But in the morning, sunlight poured through the windows like warm honey. Noah taped paper cranes along the hallway and called it their sky tunnel. Arya claimed the corner by the fireplace as the place her bunny felt brave. Lily loved it instantly. Local news picked up the story within a week. CEO gives up luxury home to prioritize family. Wife continues night shifts while studying nursing. The article painted Adrian as a leader, taking responsibility during a crisis. It framed Lily as the quiet center of the storm, the one who grounded the family, who worked and studied and still laughed with 2 children who adored her. One man, several states away, read it twice. His name was Richard Chen. He called Adrian the next morning. "I misjudged you," he said after a long pause. "I saw the headlines and assumed the worst, but I didn't see the man holding everything together. I didn't see the family he built." Adrian leaned against the kitchen counter, stunned. "I'm just doing what I can." "Good," Chen replied, "because I want back in. And I'm bringing partners. Terms will be fair. No traps, no games. You deserve another chance." When Adrian hung up, he didn't speak. He simply walked into the living room, where Lily was helping Arya button her coat. He looked at his wife, the girl from the diner who had walked into his life like a miracle, and said only 2 words. "It's back." She smiled, warm and steady. "I'm proud of you." "No," he whispered. "You're the reason this happened." "Not the company," she said. "Not the money, the healing. That's what really matters." He kissed her forehead, and she wrapped her arms around him as Noah tugged at her sleeve and Arya climbed into Adrian's lap. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't grand, it was perfect. That night, they celebrated with spaghetti in mismatched bowls. Noah built a blanket fort in the living room, stringing paper cranes from the beams. Arya insisted on drawing a "Congratulations, Daddy" picture with stars bigger than her hand. Adrian laughed for the first time in months, freely, without restraint, as the children tackled him inside the fort. Later, when the dishes were washed and the lights dimmed, the 4 of them lay shoulder to shoulder beneath the blanket canopy. The soft glow of a lamp bathed them in gold. Outside, snow began to fall again, brushing against the window like soft fingertips. Lily watched flakes drift through the night and thought about the girl she once was. The girl who lived in rotating foster homes, who kept a single snow globe on her nightstand because it was the only thing she never lost, who dreamed of belonging but never dared to believe it would happen. Now, she lay between the man she loved and 2 children who clung to her as if she were their anchor in every storm. Arya whispered sleepily, "Don't leave, Lily." "I won't," Lily whispered back. "Ever?" Noah murmured. "Ever," she promised. Adrian slid his hand over hers under the blanket. She felt his breath warm against her temple as he murmured, "You're the heart of this home." "No," she said softly. "We are." Snow piled gently outside. The world grew quiet. The small house, filled with laughter and warmth, felt larger than any mansion ever could. Lily closed her eyes, letting herself sink into the comforting weight of the moment. This wasn't a temporary shelter. This wasn't a winter visitor's place. This was home. She was no longer a guest in someone else's story. She was the keeper of the fire, and for the first time in her life, she knew she would never be returned, never be replaced, never be forgotten. She belonged.